Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com. So Joe Biden gave a speech, which I'm going to show you a bit of in just a second, but this was the day before. Go gave a speech that said we need to tamp down the political rhetoric. So this was the day before Trump was almost assassinated. This is what Joe Biden was saying.
Most importantly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Trump is a threat to this nation.
So that's the kind of stuff they were saying. Here's more of it. Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of this country. To the very soul. Wow. Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans. So that means half the country. Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul. So he's doing that thing. Donald Trump is the greatest threat to our democracy. Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to... That's just not a political opponent that you would disagree with. Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. Trump poses many threats. He's the greatest threat. So now he gives this speech after Donald Trump, because he turned his head and the bullet went through his ear instead of his head, is still alive. Now he gives this, after all that, he gives this speech.
My fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. And to remember, while we may disagree.
Now, if you listen to the corporate news, they make it sound like Donald Trump is the one who's been raising the temperature in the politics. Not Joe Biden, not the president of the United States. Or the corporate media. Boy, it's funny to watch the corporate media try to cover Trump now. Have you seen any of the coverage today? They don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know what to do if they're not calling him Hitler. They don't know what to do. Because now they can't do that anymore because he almost got killed.
We are not enemies. We're neighbors.
Oh, here we go.
My fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. And to remember, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. We're neighbors. We're friends.
That's not what you were saying before. You were saying MAGA Republicans are a threat to our democracy. They don't respect our democracy. And now he sounds like Jimmy Dore. Now all of a sudden, your assassination attempt on your political enemy doesn't work. And now you're saying, hey, we're friends, we're neighbors. I thought you hated those people. I thought you said they were our enemies to our democracy, because that is what you said. They're a threat to our country. Not just Trump, but those people who support Trump. And now you sound like Jimmy Dore. Oh, your problem isn't your neighbor?
Co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we're fellow Americans. We must stand together. Yes.
That is not his message. That hasn't been his message for the last 20 years. And it certainly hasn't been his message for the last 4 years. Now he's pretending like, oh, look, kumbaya, I love everybody. Huh. And he won't take responsibility for what he said the day before. The day before. Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of this country. Here's the day before. The day before.
Most importantly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Trump is a threat to this nation.
He means it from the bottom of his heart. Trump and MAGA are a threat to the very soul of this country. And now listen to him.
My fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. And to remember, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. We're neighbors. We're friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we're fellow Americans. We must stand together. Yesterday's shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania calls on all of us to take a step back, take stock of where we are, how we go forward from here. Thankfully, former Trump is not seriously injured.
Former Trump sounds like he died. Sounds like he's still writing him off. Former Trump.
You know, I just want to point out that he said the shooting at the rally yesterday instead of saying the attempted assassination.
Yeah, that's right. Good catch.
With him last night. I'm grateful. He's doing well, and Jill and I keep him and his family.
Why would you be grateful that a guy who was a threat to the soul of our nation is doing well? I'm getting mixed messages, Joe.
Prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victims who was killed.
You mean the MAGA supporter that you said was a threat to the soul of our nation? You want us to extend condolences to that guy? I thought you hated those people, Joe. I thought you said from the bottom of your heart they were a threat to the soul of our country. But now he loves those people, apparently. Apparently he realizes that he's the president of all America.
Corey was a husband, a father, a volunteer firefighter, a hero, sheltering his family from those bullets. We should all hold his family and all those injured in our prayers.
This is the first time he's ever said anything decent about a Trump supporter. This is the only time he's ever done that.
Today.
Here's what he used to say about them. Remember this? This is when he wanted you to hate your neighbor and think that your neighbor was the problem. Not the oligarchy, not the establishment, not the political class, not the donors, not the establishment, but your neighbor. This is Joe Biden making you hate your neighbor.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution.
But I thought you just said that guy who was a volunteer fireman who got killed at Trump rally, MAGA guy. I thought he said he's a great guy. You're glad that Trump's doing okay. These people who are a threat to our democracy. This is weird. I'm getting mixed messages, Joe.
They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people.
Well, if they're this horrible, sounds like that's why everybody's gotten bored for throwing them in jail, right? Like on January 6th, and Donald Trump, his 4 different bullshit prosecutions.
The forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans quote a clear and present danger to our democracy. But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can, we are not powerless in the face of these threats. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. We told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it's not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it.
Against half the country. Half the country wants to get rid of our democracy and our way of life and our Constitution.
Each and every one of us, we're all called by duty and conscience to confront extremists who put their own pursuit of power above all else.
Unlike
we must
you.
be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy. MAGA Republicans look...
These people, he's telling America that half of America is the enemy of America. They're your enemies.
Americans see carnage and darkness and despair. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power.
Which is exactly what Joe Biden's done his entire career. And what he's doing in this speech. He's making you turn on your neighbor. He's making you think that Donald Trump is going to end our country. So why wouldn't some deranged moron, want to take a shot at him?
The MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail.
And now this is what he says.
You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down.
Time to cool it down.
We all have a responsibility to do that. Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high. I've said it many times that the choice in this election we make in this election is going to shape the future of America and the world for decades to come. I believe that with all my soul. I know that millions of my fellow Americans believe it as well.
He believes it with all his soul. How much soul is that, Joe? Pat Boone has more soul than Joe Biden. And there's half the audience. Who's Pat Boone?
And some have a different view as to the direction our country should take. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature. But politics must never be a literal battlefield, and God forbid, a killing field. I believe politics ought to be an arena for peaceful debate, to pursue justice, to make decisions guided by the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We stand for an America, not of extremism and fury, but of decency and grace. All of us now face...
And remember, when you want to simmer down violence, you whisper like you're sneaking up behind some young girl to tell her she smells nice.
The time of testing as the election approaches. And the higher the stakes, the more fervent the passions become. This places an added burden on each of us to ensure that no matter how strong our convictions, we must never descend into violence. The Republican convention will start tomorrow. I have no doubt they'll criticize my record and offer their own vision for this country. I'll be traveling this week making the case for our record and the vision, my vision of the country, our vision. I'll continue to speak out strongly for our democracy, stand up for our Constitution and the rule of law, to call for action at the ballot box. No violence on our streets.
At the battle box. We call it the battle box. That's that show Bill Dwyer hosts now in Vegas.
That's how democracy should work. We debate and disagree. We compare and contrast the character of the candidates, the records, the issues, the agenda, the vision for America. But in America.
So here's what happens if Donald Trump dies while running in 2024 presidential election. Democrats have been citing this for a long time, says Western Lensman. Here's what happens if Donald Trump dies while running in the that's a headline. Listen to this.
He is not only unfit, he is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated.
He will do, he will get away with, he will imprison, he will execute whoever he's allowed to imprison, execute.
A lot of people have tried to draw similarities between Mussolini and Hitler. The difference, though, I think makes Donald Trump even more dangerous because he has actually said out loud that it would be okay to terminate the Constitution to keep him in power.
Well, Hitler was duly elected.
That's right.
Somebody with those tendencies, those dictatorial, authoritarian tendencies would be like, oh, okay, we're going to shut this down. We're going to throw these people in jail.
Sounds like Nazism. If it walks like Nazism, if you're not exactly sure what you call it, if you don't call it fascism.
Donald Trump is going to consolidate power, politicize the rule of law, and break down democracy one day at a time.
The man means to throw people in jail who disagree with him, shut down legitimate press outlets, do what he can.
It's exactly what Joe Biden and the Democrats have done. They're trying to throw Donald Trump in prison because he's their political opponent. And they tried to kill Julian Assange for how many years? They put him in Belmarsh prison, which is UK's equivalent of Guantanamo, for 5 years. Who did that?
To literally undermine the rule of law and our country's value. I think it would be the end of our country as we know it.
The only thing that stood between him and the destruction of American democracy was the federal judiciary.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it. That's kind of amazing.
He is not only unfit, he is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated.
He will do, he will get away with, he will imprison, he will execute whoever he's allowed to imprison, execute.
A lot of people have tried to draw similarities between Mussolini and Hitler. The difference, though, I think makes Donald Trump even more dangerous because he has actually said out loud that it would be okay to terminate the Constitution to keep him in power.
Well, Hitler was duly elected.
That's right.
Somebody with those tendencies, those dictatorial, authoritarian tendencies would be like, oh, okay, we're going to shut this down. We're going to throw these people in jail.
Sounds like Nazism. If it walks like Nazism, if you're not exactly sure what you call it, if you don't call it fascism.
Donald Trump is going to consolidate power, politicize the rule of law, and break down democracy one day at a time.
The man means to throw people in jail who disagree with him, shut down legitimate press outlets, do what he can to literally undermine the rule of law and our country's values. I think it would be the end of our country as we know it.
The only thing that stood between him and the destruction of American democracy was the federal judiciary.
No doubt about it.
So there you go. And if you watch the corporate news, they are saying that it's Donald Trump has contributed to his own assassination attempt. That it's his rhetoric, not Joe Biden's, not Hillary Clinton's, not the MSNBC maniacs. Hey, have you ever wondered what happened to Chuck Norris? I did. I recently saw a video. There's a video of him. And first of all, he looks fantastic. He says he's got more energy than he did 10 years ago. And he's even stronger than he's been in the last 10 years. He can work out longer, and he has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. That's what he says. Chuck Norris, he's 80. He did this by making one change. What's that? He says he feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing it, this one thing, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner. She's got energy all day long. What's the one thing? Well, Chuck made a special video that explains it. I watched the whole video. It's a good video. Actually, I did. I like the video. I was interested, and I think I'm going to start taking this stuff. Anyway, it's going to change the way you go to chuckdefense.com/Jimmy. Go to chuckdefense.com/Jimmy, and you can click the link below of this video, and it will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/Jimmy, and click on the link in the description below to watch the video. You're not going to believe how simple it is. Just a reminder, the legendary Chuck Norris is a whopping 81 years old, and yet has more energy than me. Well, that's not saying much. He looks fantastic. He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health simply focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. Watch this method by clicking the link in the description below, chuckdefense.com/Jimmy. Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com.